Essays on Untouchables and Untouchability, Political, by Baba Sahib Ambedkar. Chapter 3 3b. There is nobody to avenge an injury done to an untouchable. There is no fear of a blood flow. The Hindus therefore can commit any wrong against the untouchables with impunity. This is because the Mohammedans are a solid mass held together with a deep consciousness of kind, ready to act as one man to vindicate any wrong to the community or to a member thereof. The untouchables, on the other hand, are a disunited body. They are infested with the caste system in which they believe as much as does the caste Hindu. This caste system among the untouchables has given rise to mutual rivalry and jealousy, and it has made a common action impossible. The Mohammedans also have a caste system amongst themselves. Like the untouchables, they are also scattered all over the country. But their religion is a strong unifying force which gives them the feeling that if they are parts of one Muslim community. There is nothing to instill such a feeling amongst the untouchables. In the absence of any unifying force, the untouchables are just fragments with no concept and cement to bind them, and their numbers are therefore of no advantage to them. A large majority of the untouchables in the villages are either village servants or landless laborers. As village servants, they depend upon the Hindus for their maintenance and go from door to door every day and collect bread or cooked fruit from the Hindus in return for certain customary services rendered by them to the Hindus. This is a part of their remuneration. A part also of their remuneration consists in quantities of grain given to them by the Hindus at the harvest time. Whenever there is a disagreement between the Hindus and the untouchables, the first thing the Hindus do is to stop giving bread, stop the payment of the harvest share, and stop employing the untouchables on any job. The result is that the struggling hordes of the untouchables are face to face with starvation. The untouchables have no way of earning a living open to them in a village. He cannot do any business such as selling milk or vegetables because he is an untouchable. No one will buy these things from him. He cannot take to any trade because all trades being hereditary, no one will accept his service. His economic dependence upon the Hindu is complete, and the Hindu takes a complete advantage of it wherever the untouchables prove arrogant or naughty in the eyes of the touchables. Not only is the untouchable dependent upon the touchable for earning his livelihood, but the untouchable is also dependent upon the touchable for the purposes of his necessaries of life. In a village, all shops belong to the touchables. Trade is and must necessarily be in the hands of the touchable. An untouchable has to depend upon the touchable shopkeepers for their shopping. If the touchable shopkeeper is willing to sell, the untouchables can obtain the necessaries of life. If the shopkeeper refuses, the untouchable must starve, although they might have money to live on. Now, whenever any dispute arises between the touchable and the untouchable, the one thing that touchables never fail to do is to command the shopkeepers not to sell anything to the untouchables. The touchable constitutes an organized conspiracy to bring about a cessation of all economic relationships with the untouchables. A war is proclaimed against the untouchables. The means used for reducing the enemy is to send a punitive expedition consisting of rascals into the untouchable quarters who ruthlessly carry on arson of destruction of property and shamelessly commit acts of violence against all, including women and children. The more common and the more effective weapons is the declaration of complete boycott against the offending untouchables. The horrors of the boycott, which is merely another name for Gandhi's non-cooperation, can hardly be adequately described. The committee appointed by the government of Bombay to inquire into the grievances of the backward classes speaks of a social boycott in the following terms. Although we have recommended various remedies to secure to the untouchables their rights to all public utilities, we fear that there will be difficulties in the way of their expressing and exercising them for a long time to come. The first difficulty is the fear of open violence against them by the orthodox classes. It must be noted that the untouchables are a small minority in every village, opposed to which is a great majority of the orthodox who are bent on protecting their interests and dignity from any supposed invasion by the untouchables at any cost. The danger of prosecution by the police has put a limitation upon the rule of violence by the orthodox classes, and consequently, such cases are rare. The second difficulty arises from the economic position in which the untouchables are found today. The untouchables have no economic independence in most parts of the presidency. Some cultivate lands of the orthodox classes as their tenants at will. Others live on their earnings as farm laborers employed by the orthodox classes, and the rest subsist on the food or grain given to them by the orthodox classes in lieu of service rendered to them as village servants. We have heard of numerous instances where the orthodox classes have used their economic power as a weapon against those depressed classes in their villages when the latter have dared to exercise their rights and have evicted them from their land and stopped their employment and discontinued their remuneration as village servants. The boycott is often planned on such an extensive scale as to include the prevention of the untouchables from using the commonly used paths and the stoppage of the sale of the necessaries of life by the village bania or shopkeeper. According to the evidence, small causes suffice for the proclamation of a social boycott against the untouchables. Frequently, it follows on the exercise by the untouchables of their right to the use of the common but cases have by no means been rare where stringent boycott has been proclaimed simply because an untouchable man has put on a sacred thread, has bought a piece of land, has put on good clothes or ornaments, or has led a marriage procession with the bridegroom on the house through the public street. We do not know of any weapon more effective than this social boycott, which could have been implemented and invented for the suppression of the untouchables. The method of open violence pales away before it, for it has the most far reaching and deadening effects. It is the most dangerous because it passes as a lawful method consistent with the theory of freedom of contract. We agree that this tyranny of the majority must be put down with a firm hand if we are to guarantee to the untouchable the freedom of speech and action necessary for their upliftment. The end.